Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at the Verbatim AWC-02, a 1080p webcam with built-in LED lights. Pretty cool. Want to know more? Keep watching to find out. Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at the Verbatim AWC-02. This is part of the new range of Verbatim webcams. I didn't know Verbatim did webcams either. Obviously, I know they do things like media, storage, that sort of stuff. And for those of you old enough to remember burning CD-ROMs and burning DVDs, you'll remember that if you wanted a DVD to last or you wanted a quality recording, then you looked for a Verbatim label on that box. And actually, it's really nice to see from the brand Verbatim coming back, seeing their brand actually on a box. Yeah, it does fill my heart with a certain amount of happiness. It's a very good label to see. I do like it. But are they going to be as good with webcams as they are with recording technologies? Let's find out. So unboxing wise, obviously very small little box. This unit at the moment retails for somewhere around about the £40 mark here in the UK. I'll put some links in the video description. And I should actually say as well, this has been sent to me free of charge for review purposes via Verbatim. They haven't asked me to say anything or said anything. Basically just take a look, see what you think, and let your viewers know. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So on the front there it says 1080p. Now it's really weird, they're marketing this as a 1080p camera, which it actually does more than that. It will actually do 1440p quite easily at 30 frames per second, as it does with the 1080p also. So it just seems a little bit odd that they've marketed it as 1080p 30 frames per second when it does 1440p 30 frames per second. Now you'll see some examples of the footage a little bit later. The 1440p actually does look pretty sharp, but saying that, the 1080p does also. Something a little bit weird is the default characteristics. If you plug this into some devices, I did notice OBS for some reason defaulted to it being a 720p output rather than 1080p, so you may need to go into OBS and change those settings if you're using this with OBS. With Windows, plugging it into the camera app, picked it up straight away and it defaulted to 1080p. So yeah, your mileage may vary, but obviously you can tweak it however you want to in the settings programs if you delve in a little bit further. Also, you've got autofocus on here, which is obviously a good thing. Autofocus is a handy thing to have, so you don't end up having some kind of conference call and you're completely out of focus, but everyone can see all the writing on the wall behind you. It's never a good look. So this has got autofocus built in. We've also got 3 color lights as well. So all you have to do is on the top, there is a little touch sensor, and just tap the top and it will cycle through the lighting profile. So there's a bright white, a slightly off-white, a more orangey level, and then at the end you've got completely off. So if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. It's actually quite a nice little thing to have on there, although realistically in practice I found the lighting isn't very bright. So depending what your lighting is, you're not going to be getting, it's not like a studio light or anything like that, but it will give you a very small little fill light. A very redeeming feature is the built-in microphone. So you've got 2 microphones built in here, and actually the pickup seems to be pretty good. I did some examples of it in the video. You'll see this again a little bit later on. And yeah, the audio is actually, I would consider, excellent. So yeah, well done. A lot of webcam companies get audio completely wrong, and it's a pain in the backside to have to plug in a separate USB microphone or some AirPods or whatever it is. So being able to actually use the microphone straight out of the box with the webcam, if you're just doing a quick conference call, you don't have to set up any other stuff, just plug it in and you're off to the races, which is awesome. Also, you've got a privacy lens cover, so you can probably see this already on the top there. Just swivel that round and it is a physical block to the lens. Sadly, it isn't an electrical one, so it doesn't cut out the signal or actually mute the microphone as far as I'm aware. So yeah, that is a little bit of a pain. So you might be under the impression that your microphone and your camera are off, but sadly they're not. So it's just going to give the viewers a black screen. Also, in terms of flexibility, it is actually quite flexible, and you do have 360 degrees of motion actually on the head of the camera, and a little bit of swivel and tilt up and down, so that's pretty handy. And actually we should look at the camera in a little bit more depth. So in terms of actual looks, I think it looks actually pretty cool. Got that white effect around the outside, which is obviously going to be your LED lighting, which changes colour. You've got the lens in the middle, giving you your 1440p resolution. Pair of microphones each side, which is good, and actually they are pointed towards you, so that's going to be great for noise cancelling, so it's not going to pick up things too much from the outside. And in fact, when I did some testing earlier, when I was on a kind of 90-degree angle to it, my voice was considerably muted. So yeah, that's quite handy if you're using this at home for conferencing. You don't want maybe your dogs, your cats, your kids, etc. being picked up on the microphone, so yeah, that is good. In terms of actually positioning, you can just pull this clamp down. There are a universal type bracket there, so you just hang that on the top of your monitor, whether it's a laptop, TV screen, whatever, you can just hang it on there. Or if you want to, you can actually use a 1/4 inch thread on the bottom, so you can get a tripod, which I've conveniently got one here handy. So you can just screw that into the thread on the bottom, so if maybe you've got your laptop somewhere else and you just want the camera a little bit further back to get a slightly wider shot or anything, then you certainly can do, and obviously place it wherever you need to. And also you've got a little bit of adjustment on there for height in terms of what you can do. So yeah, pretty good, like that a lot. It does exactly what it's meant to, so no issues there. When it comes to the actual USB cable, that's pretty cool as well. So you've got a 1.5 meter cable on there, which is actually a little bit longer than some you do get with some webcams. They tend to be a little bit on the short side, so it's nice that they've added a little bit of extra length in there. That extra 1/2 meter can make a difference, especially if you're putting this behind the monitor or wherever the case may be. I think we've waited long enough. Let's have a look and see what it's actually like. Okay, so this is a autofocus test of the Verbatim webcam. Looks like it's hunting in and out already. The colours look a little bit oversaturated, I think, as standard. I'm not too sure what you think. You have to let me know. Moving around. This is at 30 frames per second. Seems to not be tracking particularly quickly. That could be my settings I can see on the screen here, but I'll see what it's like when we actually come to play it back. But yeah, this is also an audio test to see what the audio is like. It says it can pick up audio from around about 4 meters away, so I'm going to head over into that area over there and I'm going to carry on talking normal voice and we'll see if it can still pick me up. And it may have also focused on me. Has it done a face detect? I'm not sure if it will do. Anyway, this is me still talking, pretty much the same volume levels as I was previously. Be interested to see how it picks up, and I'm going to carry on talking as I walk around so you can hear the difference. So this is me pretty much on a 90-degree angle to the camera, and now obviously coming in front of it and speaking to it directly head on, or face on I suppose it would be. Looks like the autofocus is hunting a little bit in and out, but yeah, I guess it's quite a sharp image actually, surprisingly. I thought it was going to be pretty poor. This is actually 1440p recorded on OBS. It's actually on a 4K canvas, so it is stretched out a little bit from 1440p to 4K, obviously because the rest of the video is going to be in 4K for the presentation. So yeah, this is effectively pretty much the, well, best case scenario in terms of 4K, but it is a 1440p resolution piece of footage stretched out to 4K. So obviously if you crunch it in a little bit, that's going to look much better, and it will hide up some of the other things that are in here, such as artifacts and such, which I don't think there's actually going to be a great deal anyway. It looks pretty sharp, like I said. Anyway, let's get back to the review. And now this is recording at 1080p. So this is 1080p on a 1080p canvas. 30 frames per second is what it alleges. I'll be honest with you, I don't think it is. It doesn't seem like it, or at least if it is, it's not updating very quickly. If I'm moving around, I'm going to try this actually in the Microsoft Camera app as well, just to see if it makes any difference. This is currently using OBS, and there is definitely, you can see there is a juddering effect as I'm moving around. Moving around, not too bad, but any sideways motion seems to really affect it quite badly, and actually you can see, yeah, it's almost strobing there. So I'm going to stop this now. This is again 1080p. I'm going to go into the Microsoft Camera app and see if it comes out any better. Okay, so this is the Verbatim webcam. This is now at 1080p, 30 frames per second, and yeah, it looks like we've still got some of that going on with the image where it's a little bit flickery. So for static shots, I think it's going to be absolutely fine, and if you've got it on top of your laptop or whatever, just using it for general communications point, I think it's going to be absolutely fine. The microphone actually seems to be pretty decent. I'm quite impressed with the microphone. You've got dual microphones on the top. Also, you've got that LED lighting, which I'm actually using at the moment. Let's turn that off into a different colour. Yeah, you can just about see there's a little bit of a extra highlight when you've got it on. You can just about see it. It does make a very slight difference, but to be honest with you, I don't think the LEDs are actually powerful enough in order to make any difference, and that is with the LEDs off completely now. That's just with the studio lights on. So with the right lighting, I think it works well. The focal point, I think, is actually a little bit further back than the camera that's hanging down there. Looks like it's quite in focus, although, yeah, again, there is a little bit of hunting going on there, which is to be expected, to be honest with you. We're so used to having these kind of relatively expensive cameras built into our mobile phones which autofocus and do everything, but they're normally a good few £100, whereas this is about 50. So yeah, you do have to kind of temper your expectations a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to put on the privacy shield and we'll call that a day. So there you go, there's some examples of what the footage is actually like. So I would say, in kind of wrapping things up, audio quality I think is absolutely excellent, considering this isn't a lav mic or anything. So what you've been listening to up until the point of this was all through my lav mic, which does give absolutely excellent performance in this room specifically. So I think the microphones have done an absolutely fantastic job. The frames per second, I'm not entirely convinced that this is 30 frames per second. Obviously, they've said it is, and that's what it says on the box. And when you select it in OBS, it says it's either maximum FPS, 30, 5 is an option as well, and 5 looks absolutely awful. So it does seem like it's 30 frames per second. I'm thinking that possibly the sensor readout on this is a little bit on the slow side, giving you that slightly sort of jello effect if there's any fast movement in there. So certainly if you're a, let's say, an active streamer, you're moving around quite a lot, this possibly isn't the webcam for you. I think you probably want to look for maybe a 60 FPS one, of which there is one a little bit further up the range from Verbatim, which might be just the thing for you. The AWC-03 might be worth looking at. But I think for most people in general, if you're working from home, doing your Zoom calls, Skype, keeping in touch with relatives, that sort of thing, some casual streaming, maybe a little bit of Discord, that sort of stuff, then I think this is going to be absolutely perfect for you. In terms of pricing wise, somewhere around about the £40 mark. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a market leader in terms of sales. I think it's realistic what they're asking for it. It's a quality unit. You've got the lighting built in. You've got an autofocus lens. The downside with the autofocus lens is, as you heard from the recordings, the actual autofocus motor is a little bit on the noisy side. So when it's hunting, you are going to hear that in your recordings. So if you're looking for kind of podcast quality recordings, then you might want to use a separate microphone, just so that the microphones that are built in here don't pick up directly from the autofocus motor, which is literally right next to them, which is unfortunate, but it is a compact device. There's not really a great deal you can do about that. And certainly I'd rather have autofocus and put up with the occasional noise than not have it at all. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap things up. Overall, I would say it's a very good effort. Good job. If you can pick it up on a slightly reduced price, then I think it's definitely worth taking a very serious look at. At the normal retail price, there's others on the market which you might want to consider, but I think this actually does a pretty decent job. And of course, you're backed up by the Verbatim name. So there you go. That's been the Verbatim AWC-02. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.